A house in the woods. The tires crunched on the gravel driveway as Lily pulled up to the house. Sunlight dappled through the towering pines, painting shifting patterns on the weathered clapboard. A sigh escaped her lips, a mixture of relief and anticipation. This was it. Grandma Elena's house. Her fresh start. She killed the engine and stepped out, stretching her cramped limbs. The air, thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, filled her lungs. The house itself was smaller than she remembered, almost swallowed by the encroaching woods. Ivy climbed the porch posts like grasping hands, and the yard was a riot of overgrown bushes and tangled vines. A gardener's paradise or a Herculean task, depending on how you looked at it. Lily chose to see potential. As she wrestled the first box from the back of her SUV, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Across the narrow strip of woods separating her property from the next, a woman stood on her porch, arms crossed, watching with an intensity that made Lily's smile falter. She was older, with a severe face etched with deep lines, and her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun. Lily straightened, offering a tentative wave. "Hello," she called out, hoping to bridge the distance, both physical and otherwise. The woman didn't wave back. She simply narrowed her eyes, her expression unreadable. "You Elena's granddaughter?" Her voice was raspy, like dry leaves skittering across pavement. "Yes, I am." Lily Hernandez. She walked towards the edge of her property, trying to close the gap. "I'm so excited to be here." "Humph." The woman's lips barely moved. "Crabtree. Beatrice Crabtree. And you best keep that dog of yours off my petunias." With that, she turned and disappeared inside, the screen door slamming shut behind her with a sharp, decisive crack. Lily stared at the closed door, the friendly words she'd rehearsed caught in her throat. Well, that was something. She didn't even have a dog. The hidden path. The screen door slapped shut behind Lily as she stepped into the muggy embrace of the backyard. Sunlight dripped through the leaves of ancient oaks, dappling the overgrown lawn in shifting patterns of light and shadow. This was it, her fresh start. Grandma Elena's house felt a million miles away from the sterile apartment she'd shared with her mom, even though it was just across town. Beyond the scraggly rose bushes and dilapidated birdbath, the yard dissolved into a tangle of trees and undergrowth. An adventure waiting to be unwrapped. Drawn by an unseen force, Lily ventured toward the woods, the crunch of dry leaves under her worn sneakers the only sound. Then she saw it. A narrow, winding path, barely discernible beneath a carpet of fallen leaves. It beckoned, a secret whispered among the trees. Her breath hitched. This wasn't just some deer trail. It was deliberate, worn. Lily pictured herself as an intrepid explorer, hacking through the jungle with a machete fashioned from a sturdy stick, of course, uncovering lost civilizations, mapping uncharted territories. Or maybe she was a secret agent, evading enemy pursuers, the fate of the world resting on her young shoulders. The path twisted and turned, disappearing into the deeper woods. Her heart pounded with anticipation. What secrets did it hold? What wonders would she discover? Unbeknownst to Lily, as she stood poised to embark on her imagined escapade, Mrs. Crabtree, 2 houses down and armed with her walking stick, frowned. This was her private haven, her escape from the incessant yapping of her poodle, Fifi. And those tracks, they looked awfully new. A trail of trouble. Lily was hacking at a stubborn patch of blackberry brambles when she heard the crunch of gravel behind her. She straightened, wiping sweat from her brow, and saw Mrs. Crabtree standing at the edge of the newly erected fence, her arms crossed tightly. "You can't do this," Mrs. Crabtree declared, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "This is the old Carter Trail. People have walked this path for generations." "It's my property, Mrs. Crabtree," Lily said, trying to keep her tone even. "I'm just putting up a fence." "That fence, as you call it, is blocking a historic right-of-way. My grandfather used to drive cattle down this very path." Lily sighed. "I'm sorry, but I wasn't aware of any trail. I checked the property lines before I started." Mrs. Crabtree snorted. "Checked with who?" "Some city slicker lawyer who wouldn't know a cow path from a sidewalk." She glared at the fence, her face reddening. "This isn't right. It's just not right." She turned abruptly and marched back toward her house, muttering something about young people and no respect. That evening, Lily sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by maps and legal documents she downloaded from the county website. The property lines were clear, the deed unambiguous. The land was hers. Still, Mrs. Crabtree's words gnawed at her. She pulled up historical maps, zooming in on the area around her property. After an hour, she found it, a faint, dotted line labeled Carter Trail snaking across a corner of her land. But next to it, in small print, was a note, discontinued 1952. The next morning, Lily drove into town and visited the county records office. After another hour of searching, she found the official document. The puppy fence. Patches was a whirlwind of sloppy kisses and clumsy paws from the moment Lily brought him home. A scruffy terrier mixed with mismatched ears and an inexhaustible supply of energy, he was precisely the distraction she needed. Grandma Elena had smiled, a knowing glint in her eye, and simply said, "He chose you, Mija." Lily knew she needed to keep him safe. The woods bordering her property were beautiful, but also full of unseen dangers. So, armed with a measuring tape and a determined spirit, she mapped out a small enclosure along the back of the house. Just enough space for Patches to romp without wandering too far. The next morning, Lily was up before dawn, the scent of damp earth and pine filling the air. She bought the materials from Mr. Henderson at the hardware store, thin wooden posts, chicken wire, and a gate with a latch that even Patches couldn't outsmart. Hammering the posts into the ground was harder than she anticipated. The earth was stubborn, laced with roots. Sweat trickled down her forehead as she stretched the wire, securing it with metal staples. The rhythmic clang of the hammer echoed through the quiet morning. Finally, as the sun climbed higher, the fence was complete. It wasn't perfect, a little wobbly in places, maybe, but it was hers, built with her own two hands. And it would keep Patches safe. Or so she thought. HOA havoc. The clatter of B. Crabtree's gardening shears echoed across the meticulously manicured lawns. Lily, humming a tuneless melody, pruned a climbing rosebush, its vibrant pink blossoms a stark contrast to BEA's perpetually gray demeanor. Suddenly, B shrieked, "Those monstrosities! Those orange petunias! They clash horribly with my carefully curated fuchsia impatience. You're bringing down the whole neighborhood, girl. I'm calling the HOA." Lily sighed, snipping off a dead bloom. "They're pretty, Mrs. Crabtree. And Grandma loved orange." B sputtered, her face a wrinkled map of indignation. "Rules are rules. Uniformity. That's what keeps property values up. Mark my words, young lady, you'll be hearing from them." 3 days later, a crisp, official envelope landed in Lily's mailbox. The HOA logo, an oak tree encircled by a laurel wreath, seemed to glare at her. Inside, a sterilely worded notice cited Violation 3. 2B, unapproved floral arrangements detracting from the community aesthetic. A chill tightened Lily's chest. That evening, armed with a mug of chamomile tea and a magnifying glass, Lily dove into the HOA regulations. The document, a bewildering labyrinth of clauses and subclauses, threatened to swallow her whole. But then, she found it. Section 4. 1. Subsection C. Residents may plant flowers of personal significance, provided they are contained within a designated memorial garden. Grandma's roses, Grandma's orange petunias. A memorial garden. A slow smile spread across Lily's face. Mrs. Crabtree was going to hate this. Fighting back, with facts. The HOA meeting felt less like a civic duty and more like facing a firing squad. Lily stood, clutching her carefully curated presentation. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, and highlighting the unimpressed frown etched on Mrs. Crabtree's face. "As you can see," Lily said, projecting the relevant section of the neighborhood covenant onto the screen. Section 3, subsection B, paragraph 7, clearly states that fences are permitted, provided they do not exceed 6 feet in height and are constructed of wood or wrought iron. She pointed to the highlighted text. "My fence meets both requirements." A low murmur rippled through the room. Even Mr. Abernathy, the HOA president, looked surprised. After a tense deliberation, the vote was cast. The fence was approved. Lily exhaled, relief washing over her. Victory tasted like lukewarm coffee and stale cookies. The next morning, as she was weeding her grandmother's rose bushes, she found it. Tucked neatly under a prize-winning Mr. Lincoln bloom, a small, folded piece of paper. Its crisp, floral stationery screamed passive aggression. While the fence may be legal, it certainly detracts from the neighborhood's aesthetic. Perhaps some ivy would soften its harsh lines? It was signed, simply, a concerned neighbor. Lily crumpled the note in her hand. The war, it seemed, was far from over. Patch's great escape. The cool earth felt good against Patch's paws. Freedom. That's what he craved, and the loose soil under the fence separating Lily's grandmother's yard from the Crabtrees offered it. He wriggled, pushing with his hind legs, the scent of damp earth filling his nostrils. Finally, with a triumphant wiggle, He was through. Lily called his name, her voice thin on the breeze. He ignored it, reveling in the open space. A riot of color caught his eye. Crimson, sunshine yellow, a soft, blushing pink, a veritable rainbow of smells beckoned. He bounded toward them. Patches. Lily's voice was closer now, laced with panic. Patches, no. Too late. He was in. Thorn snagged at his fur, but the intoxicating fragrance of the roses overwhelmed any discomfort. He nudged a velvety bloom with his nose, scattering petals like confetti. He was a whirlwind of canine joy in Mrs. Crabtree's prize-winning rose bushes. A strangled gasp pierced the air. Lily stood frozen at the edge of the rose garden, her face a mask of horror. Beyond her, on the porch, stood Mrs. Crabtree. Her face, already etched with disapproval, now held a thunderous fury that promised a storm unlike any Lily had ever weathered. Patches, oblivious, wagged his tail, a rose petal clinging to his nose. Roses and resolutions. The screen door slammed open, rattling the glass. Mrs. Crabtree stood on the porch, face the color of aged brick. In her hand, she clutched a mangled rose head, petals bruised and brown. "What in tarnation do you think you're doing to my prize-winning roses?" she demanded, voice tight with fury. Lily swallowed, the lump in her throat feeling suspiciously like rose thorns. I was trying to tidy up a bit," she stammered, gesturing weakly at the disturbed earth. They looked a little overgrown. Overgrown. Mrs. Crabtree's voice rose. "Those roses are practically family. Each one a descendant of the original hybrid tea my Harold brought me back from the Chelsea Flower Show in '68. Lily cringed. "I'm really sorry. I didn't know. How about I replant them? I actually know a bit about roses. Different soil types, pruning techniques." Mrs. Crabtree's expression softened slightly, the anger warring with a flicker of curiosity. "You do, eh? You think you can salvage this mess?" She tossed the mangled rose head into Lily's hands. Lily examined the bloom, gently brushing off a stray clod of dirt. "I can try. With your permission, of course." A long silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the chirping of crickets. Finally, Mrs. Crabtree sighed, the sound like air escaping a punctured tire. "All right. But if you kill another one of my babies, young lady, you'll be answering to Harold in the afterlife." She marched towards the shed, returning with a pair of well-worn gardening gloves. "Come on then. Less talking, more digging." The scent of earth and crushed leaves hung in the air as they knelt side by side, the setting sun casting long shadows across the rose bed. A gate to friendship. Lily chewed her lip, watching Mrs. Crabtree prune a particularly thorny rose bush. What if we put a gate in the fence?" Mrs. Crabtree's shears stilled. She peered over her spectacles, suspicion etched on her face. "A gate? In your fence?" "Yeah. You could still get to the trail, and it would be legal." Lily held her breath, the afternoon sun suddenly feeling oppressive. A long silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the buzzing of bees. Finally, Mrs. Crabtree sighed, a sound like air escaping a punctured tire. "A gate wouldn't be the worst thing." Relief washed over Lily so intensely she nearly stumbled. "Really? You mean it? Don't get any fancy ideas. Just a simple gate. Nothing showy." Mrs. Crabtree snipped a dead bloom with unnecessary force. The next afternoon, Lily presented Mrs. Crabtree with a glass of homemade lemonade on the porch. The woman accepted it with a grunt, settling stiffly into a rocking chair. The tart lemon scent filled the air. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the only sound the gentle creak of the chairs and the ice clinking in their glasses. So Lily began, gathering her courage, "Want to christen that gate?" Later, as they walked the trail together, the setting sun painting the sky in fiery hues, Lily realized the fence, once a symbol of conflict, was now something else entirely, a boundary, yes, but also a shared joke. A starting point for an unlikely friendship. The scent of roses clung to Mrs. Crabtree, a subtle perfume hinting at the softer woman beneath the prickly exterior.